I'm here today in our Victorian cemetery at Cheriton Road, and we will be doing what our small volunteer team often does on a Saturday morning, clearing away the weeds and clearing away the years and doing our best to ensure the people buried here aren't forgotten. And this grave right here belongs to someone whose story genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I first learned it. His name was William Alexander Kerr, and as we clean his memorial and grave, I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. William was born on the 18th of July 1831 in Melrose, a small town in the Scottish borders. He was educated at Loretto School in Edinburgh, and as a young man he joined the British Army and sailed for India. He served with the 24th Bombay Native Infantry and later with the Southern Maratha Horse, a cavalry regiment. India, in the 1850s, was a world of colour, heat and growing tension, and in the summer of 1857, William Kerr found himself right at the centre of a crisis that would shake the entire British Empire. That was the year of the Indian Mutiny. On the 10th of July, 1857, at a place called Kolhapur, a group of mutineers had barricaded themselves inside a strongly defended compound, a fortified stronghold. The situation was critical. At that moment, 25-year-old Lieutenant William Kerr made a decision. He gathered a small group of men, just 17 men, and led them in a direct charge at one of the gates. They broke it down, forced their way through. The position was taken. But here is what the official records also tell us, and what I think matters enormously. Of his 17 men, of those 17 souls who followed William Kerr through the gate, 8 were killed outright. 4 more died later from their wounds. The rest were badly injured, and William Kerr was severely injured too. He was one of the very few who came through it. For his courage that day, William Alexander Kerr was awarded the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest honour for gallantry in the face of the enemy. He received it formally on the 4th of September 1858, over a year after the action itself, from Major General Farrell at a ceremony in Belgaum, India. He also received the Indian Mutiny Medal with Central India clasp. The moment of the attack was even commemorated in a painting, an oil on canvas by the artist Louis William Desange, completed around 1859, just 2 years after it happened. That painting is now held by the National Army Museum in London. And one more thing worth knowing. If you walk into Folkestone town centre and look at the foot of the Tower of Christ Church on Sandgate Road, you'll find his name on the Folkestone Victoria Cross Memorial. He's remembered in 2 places in this town. Most people don't know about either of them. But here's the part of William Kerr's story I find most remarkable. He left the army in 1862, still a relatively young man. He married Harriet Atty, settled into civilian life, and spent the next 6 decades doing something quite unexpected for a decorated war hero. He wrote books about horses. Not battle memoirs, not tales of glory. Books with titles like Practical Horsemanship and Riding for Ladies. Thoughtful, practical guides for everyday riders who wanted to understand their horses better. And what strikes me about his writing is the tone of it. He believed that writing built confidence, self-discipline and skill. He wrote about the bond between horse and rider, about patience and kindness. I looked through one of the books and quickly found evidence of his kindness philosophy, where he mentions, "When children are kind to their ponies, it's marvellous how close a bond of union between them and their 4-footed friend becomes." This is the man who led a charge that cost the lives of most of the men beside him, and who chose to spend the rest of his life teaching gentleness. I think that tells us a great deal about who he really was. William Alexander Kerr died here in Folkestone on the 21st of May, 1919. He was 87 years old. The First World War had only just ended. He had watched the world change beyond all recognition. His Victoria Cross is displayed today in the Lord Ashcroft Gallery at the Imperial War Museum in London. But here, right here, is where the man himself rests. So, when we look at this grave, we see more than a Victoria Cross recipient. We see a Scotsman, a soldier, a husband, a veteran, a writer, a man who survived things most of us can barely imagine. And then he spent the long remainder of his life in quite purposeful peace. This is why we do this work in the old cemetery, so that graves like this one don't disappear under the weeds, and stories like this one don't disappear either.